I just found a stick that looks like a hip. There it is. I'm not quite sure what to do with it. Throw it at the dog probably. Baby, go on. Oh. No, she hasn't got the hang of fetching sticks. Oh well. Prior to finding that stick, I was thinking about Michael Polanyi and his distinction between tacit and explicit knowledge. And just out of interest, really, I just did a little bit of Googling on what those terms mean, or at least where the origins are. I know etymology isn't explanation, but it is interesting sometimes to find out the origins of these terms and why they were chosen, perhaps. And it was quite revealing in a way. As I understand it, tacit comes from Latin, and it means to remain silent, and that's fine. And explicit, which is also interesting, and also from Latin, explicare. Apparently, explicare was what was written at the end of medieval scrolls, and it means something like you have unrolled it, or now it is unrolled. So it has this sense of an unfolding or an unrolling out. X signifies outness. And that's a really interesting choice of terms, I think, in many ways. Tacit. Obviously, tacit has got lots of uses in contemporary language, other than its original meaning in remaining silent. But I think for Polanyi, certainly, given that one of the aphorisms of his philosophy was this idea that we know more than we can say, tacit and silence does seem to be an appropriate correspondence of idea. And I don't think he's talking about tacit in the way we use it in words like taciturn, signifying a kind of unwillingness to speak, or a sort of lack of initiative to speak. It's more tacit about the unwillingness to speak from, and also in a Wittgensteinian sense almost, of that which we cannot speak, we must remain silent. It's that kind of more profound silence. The other term, explicare, meaning to unroll or to fold out, is also really interesting. First off, it's obviously a spatialized metaphor going on there. There's a sense of a directionality and outness to the movement that's implied. And this unrolling, I think, is really nice. It's sort of really reminiscent of the other use of actually it's not used. I'm thinking of David Bohm's use of the implicate and explicate order, in which when he uses explicate to mean a kind of folding or unrolling, order of substantiveness, I guess, something like that. And that seems to be kind of the implication with Polanyi's use of explicit. There's an assumed existence of space in which one might unroll one's ideas, verbally or in writing, presumably, given its origins within scrolls. So it becomes synonymous with propositional ideas and declarative ideas, ones that we can put out there into the world, we can take from inside of us and unfold or unroll so that they become available. So those are the two senses that I'm getting from Polanyi's Tacit and Explicit. Another thing I think that's interesting in that duality is that they're not clear opposites. I mean, we use them as opposites, but they're not. Their meanings are completely different. At least in their original usage, tacit referring to an absence of sound or an absence of expressive ability, or possibility, and explicit, it's coming from a completely different sort of spatializing metaphor. So I think there's something intriguing about that, which perhaps maps on in some ways to some of the other understanding of the spatializations I've been thinking about, in which as one kind of unrolls knowledge, or projects knowledge, or objectifies knowledge, or places knowledge away from the body, it becomes more separate and object-like, whereas and more visualizable. So we would use visual metaphors like the unrolling into space. And when knowledge is more internal, subjective, more closely allied to being, we don't describe it in external space. We start to attribute it as a dispositional quality of the speaker, or of the possessor, or of the I can't even think of the word for it. A disposition of the locational being of that object, which in this case is a kind of internal silence that one might choose to somehow listen to, but one would have a hard job explicating.